Hello, everybody. A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to Digi-Live, the power of automation. Just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Paul. I'm the editor of Data Science and AI at CDOTrends. Well, we had our first session before the break. That was the first panel, and I hope you have found the various insights about automation and RPA to be most useful and interesting. So in a few moments, we will have a second and our final panel for today, of which I will be the moderator. But before I go into that, I want to encourage all of you to keep the questions coming. We have cleared the Q&A box, so please feel free to send in questions along the way that you might have, and we'll get to them during the panel discussion itself. Anyway, without much ado, let's jump straight in. So the title of our panel today is Drive Smarter Decision-Making with Predicted Outcomes and Prescribed Actions. Well, we all know the role that AI and machine learning is playing. And because of that, business leaders are now looking to data to provide an edge in optimizing business performances. So this panel will explore topics such as some prerequisites that is needed for predictive and prescriptive analytics, as well as the challenges of crafting predictive and prescriptive models. So before I continue, let me quickly introduce our speakers for today. Okay, so I have with me Chu Yu Chong. Okay, he's the head of data science and customer value management at U Mobile. So he has more than 20 years of working experience in software development and IT across multiple industry segments. He has a wide range of high impact projects under his belt. And in fact, he has 4 patents under his name and another 3 pending, right? Wow. So he's also the founder of the Malaysian National Computer Federation AI Special Interest Group, and is appointed as an external supervisor of some local universities. So we have with us Garrett. He's the head of data analytics at Capgemini Invent. Now, Garrett is a data science strategist who has helped design, develop, and integrate AI models into practical use, right? So some of the data science projects that Garrett has delivered includes credit risk scoring, product recommendations, customer service analytics, customer 360 profiling, behavioral analysis, next best action, propensity models, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. These 2 men on the panel are people who have rolled up their sleeve and has gone into the trenches, right, to do data science, AI, and AI. So, question, right? So let's talk about predictive and prescriptive analytics. How can they help organizations? Maybe Garrett or one of you could go first. Can you share anecdotes to help us understand a little bit better about what kind of role they can play?
Sure, probably, let me go first. So, I think, a lot of people have heard of, how AI can help organizations. In fact, I came up with a definition that, in this highly competitive era, right, the art of data science is becoming the new art of strategy. So companies that needs to stay ahead of the competitions needs to incorporate data science, at some part of their journey. So therefore, the terms that, how AI is going to help the organization and how it has matured can be basically, categorized into a few buckets here, which I defined it. So one would be the descriptive analytics, and the other one, as Paul, you have mentioned, which is the predictive and the prescriptive analytics. But there's one on the top of the bucket that I have defined as well, which is the the optimized analytics as well. So let me cover each of these buckets separately using anecdotes. So descriptive analytics is something that you see what has happened in the trends now. That in the past, with these patterns, that has already taken place, what are kind of the trends that that could be arising. It describes the current situation or current scenario now. So I'll use a example of in the financial industry, financial services. So take for example, you have a descriptive analytics that shows you the portfolio of your credit card customers, which who are those who have taken up a loan, and who of those have are defaulted on their loan, and what are the loan size that they have, and then what are the demographics of each of these customers. So all these insights, while it is good to know, but they are descriptive, right? They shows you what has happened now. Like this is your current layout, this is your scenario now. what can you do with all this, information, which is a descriptive analytics, right? So moving from that, to the next level will be the predictive analytics, right? So I would like to, also, gives you a perspective of, complexity versus business value. So on the, a scale of, the complexity of the analytics versus the, on the horizontal scale of business value. So moving on to the next one, which is the predictive analytics. It is a little bit more complex to develop this kind of algorithms to be able to do predictions, but of course the value that it gives you are much higher than of course descriptive analytics. So some examples of predictive analytics would be, given that this is the current scenario for these customers who have these loans, what will be the customers that I have not reached out to? Can I give them a loan? Like, what are their risk profile? Can I design an AI algorithm that can predict, the risk profiles of these customers, given that, this has already happened? Who are those, with a higher risk profiles that I can predict, right, using the data that I've gathered for these customers? And who are those, who have a much, a cleaner, a lower risk profiles that, I can, potentially provide this loan to? So that's on the predictive part, right? So moving up the ladder, as you can imagine, which takes a much more at a higher complexity level, which is prescriptive analytics, and it can, derive much more value to the business and the organizations, will be, taking a prescriptive approach, right? Given that, let's say you have an algorithm that can predict, okay, out of these, 10,000 customers, the risk profiles, are distributed from like, 0% to those that is like 100%, like very risky profiles. What would be the company's decision or their take to offer these loans? Should I cut off at, if the algorithm predicts, let's say 80% risk, should I cut off, stop, giving offer to these customers a loan? Or should I, be conservative and stop at, 20%? If they have a risk of, more than 20%, I should, stop giving these loans to the customers. And if, let's say, in the example of, what if these cases of the, the predictions of these 20% of the customers who, I think that I can give a loan and they should be able to, repay back the loan. What are the risks that, these algorithms are predicting wrongly? So therefore, the prescriptive analytics here comes into play, whereby it helps you to, look at, what are the strategies that you can take, if you want to, do a cutoff or setting a threshold for these predictions. And then the last bucket will be the optimized, analytics, which, you take into account of the other business processes. Take, for example, like, in the event, if let's say you offer the loan to these customers and should they, default on the loan, what will be the cost to the organization if they want to do a recovery? Or what will be the cost, to the organization if they want to, do a collection, like, to make sure that the customers are, who have taken the loan to pay back. And, so that's one part of the, business consideration. Another part of the business consideration will be marketing. So from marketing side, there might be, marketing loss of opportunities. Let's say if the algorithms are too conservative, right? I only offer these loans to, 20% of the customers who has a clean records. What about the 80%? Would there be a loss of potential opportunities? So bringing in all these, equations into the algorithms with the predictions. Therefore, this is what they call the optimized AI. So these are the different buckets of, categories of how you implement AI within the organization.
Well, thank you, Garrett. Well, what a mouthful, right? Descriptive analytics, what has happened in the past. Predictive analytics, predicting what is likely to happen in the future. Prescriptive analytics, actions that you can take to effect this outcome. And of course, you mentioned about optimized analytics. So thank you, Garrett, for the really comprehensive overview of the different options. So maybe I just want to hand the time over to you, Chong, right? I mean, do you have any anecdotes of how the different aspects of analytics can help organizations? And does it even, given that prescriptive is so much more deliver superior results, right? Do we even need to care about descriptive analytics, which is things that has been happened in the past?
Definitely. All right. So we always talk about these 4 stages of analytics, right? Like Gareth has mentioned, right? Your descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. There's actually nothing like, one is better than the other. In most of the organizations, right, we do talk about those sexy big data, machine learning, AI. In most of the organization, your data is still in your database. And the one that really critical to your business is your daily report. Let it be your marketing report, your sales report, your financial report, even if you're on commercial, your inventory report, right? So nothing to do with predictive or prescriptive, but you actually want to know where are we today? How is our business doing? So it's critical, okay? So of course, I mean, today we're talking about all this AI, analytics, advanced analytics, because we actually want to do more than what we are already doing in the past. Okay, but actually these are the building blocks. So each of them is a building block for the next. To me, I think when we talk about all this, analytics or how to become a data-driven organizations, or how to, extract the insight from the data to help the business decision. All right, there are a lot of things you can consider. All right, but I would say we should start with a very simple 3 questions. First of all, I think everyone interested in this topic is not because you are buzzed with this sexy word, but you actually really want it to help your business. So in this case, first of all, everybody from the top management to your engineer to your sales, you need to understand what is this, right? We talk about AI, machine learning. A lot of people think they are the same thing. A lot of people think they are different things. But do we know what is what first? You talk about AI. Today, AI, right, driven, the latest ways of AI driven by the deep learning is very good in terms of maybe, in certain areas like image processing, natural language processing, all right? Maybe those reinforcement learning to develop a machine learning from a machine and then come up, to beat the world champion. But they are very good in image processing, in natural language processing, but are they very, equally good in some very simple issue? We can actually resolve it perfectly with mathematics, statistics, right? So you must know what is what's first. If you don't know what is what, you might apply the wrong tools in the wrong area. You won't get the result, okay? So once you know that, the second thing is you must understand when to use what. But I say, if you only want to know, your maybe what is the average spending of your customer, you can apply mathematics. All the statistic methods is already, come up with all this, binomial trending distribution for you to understand how your customer base looks like. Okay, but then again, if you want something really more advanced, thinking of, can we build a system? All right, the system once it's built, most of the time, all right, by fitting the system more data, it can actually automatically fine-tune itself and come back with a better recommendation every day. And this is actually the most difficult part as today. Okay, so to know what is what, when to use what. Then the last thing is how to achieve that. So a lot of people, I think, when discuss about the predictive and prescriptive, focus on predictive is really predict what's going to happen. Prescriptive is really like, oh, can you make that thing happen? Okay, but how? All right, so if you do not know how, you cannot apply into the business. For example, all right, so I'll give you one example. We look into our customer profile history data. So we know, when these customers are with us, how much they spend with us, all right? What is their pattern? That is the descriptive and the diagnostic part, right? The next thing we want to do is, we may actually want to apply all this machine learning to do a very simple, like just now Garrett mentions, right? You can actually come up with those next best offer, propensity, all right? To predict, for example, in this case, I want to know, I look into my customer data, transaction profile, I want to predict, okay, how soon they churn from us. We also want to predict what is their customer lifetime value. If you said nothing, then we just, it's really like we are not helping the business. But if we apply this technology, first we try to predict what is the lifetime value of this customer. Second, we also predict how long they're going to stay with us. All right, so this is really using the analytic technology to help us to predict what's going to happen next. But today, a lot of machine learning in the predictive area, that's one of the, I think the biggest challenge is right? A lot of this prediction doesn't really connect to your business goal and business action well. So that's why you see a lot of these machine learning predictive use cases fail, because in the beginning, maybe you didn't define the goal clearly. All right. So if we have these predictive models able to tell us what is the predicted customer lifetime value and when they're going to churn with us, all right, then the next follow-up is really, you should actually, can you come up with a business process together with your technology that to drive the action you want, the organization want, and that should be the prescriptive part of it. All right. So I think at this moment, what I see is in business, we apply a lot of predictive because the technology in terms of machine learning is much mature. Today, thanks to the developments of those neural network, deep learning from the AI, right? Machine learning also actually benefit from it in a way that a lot of so-called, machine automated fine-tuning. Last time, you need an expert, know the technology well, know the algorithm well, know the max well, to go and fine-tune your algorithm so that it works well with your data. Today, a lot of this actually can automatically take over by the machine. So I think that is the bright side of it. Okay.
Wow. Thanks, Yu Chong. I think I hear you, right? So as with most new technologies, you got to start from the business side, right? What are the business challenges? What are the business objectives? And then you start from there and you work backwards. And what you shared is that in many cases, many of the problems could actually be solved with traditional methods, right? I mean, traditional statistical methods, traditional analytics method, without having to go the deep section of the pool, right? Jump into machine learning and so on. But I'm trying to visualize, right? So the big boss heard that AI is great. So you set a data science team, you get some people in on the team, and now they're rolling out their sleeve. They say, give us a problem to solve, right? The only problem is perhaps maybe at the board level or at a business level, the business issues that are identified don't really touch into AI. I mean, I'm just trying to visualize, have such a problem happen, I mean, that you're aware about? Or is it something that might come about? I mean, how do you bridge the gap between the talents that you might have already recruited versus the business challenges that might not necessarily require machine learning or AI?
Maybe I try to answer this one first. Okay. I've been working in these advanced analytic areas, like machine learning, AI, big data, right, for the past 10 years. I'm fortunate enough that I actually work on both sides. All right. So when I in bank, I'm actually on the business side because we are actually like a COE. All right. So we report to the strategy office instead of the IT. Okay. Currently in telco, I'm actually reporting to the IT side, but work very close with the business. Okay. And I think before that, I have a lot of different projects with different clients. So you can see, I would say initially, this is something new. People also don't really understand what is it. So a lot of time, the struggling is really, just we heard big data is good. Well, we heard machine learning is good. We heard AI is fantastic. Now they want to do that. But again, really, what does it mean to us? Let's say, for example, if I'm a bank, what does this big data machine learning means to a bank? If I'm a telco, right, what is AI means to me? All right, so it cannot be really, see something good, we must invest in it. You must invest in it that, you have to buy back to your business goal. Every business should have a business planning, right? So whether it's a short-term 1 to 2 years planning, or whether it's a long-term 3 to 5 years planning, there must be a business planning. In the business planning, you actually craft out the area, basically like, all right, the focus is grow the business. Second, cost saving, improve efficiency. Third, improve the customer experience. Lastly, if you are your business also have to deal with those regulators, I want to minimize the risk on regulation. So you must come from all these business goals. What is the big pillar first? Then from each of them, you have to break down, right? So say, for example, increase the business value. Whether you are looking into come up with new product, acquire new partner, optimize your current service, improve your deliver. So each of it go down, then from level, then when you go into the technology areas, then I can identify, okay, in order for us, say for example, we want to actually optimize our existing product. So can I apply a technology to study all my existing product, all their features, compare, which one is the most favorable feature by my customer, which one is not, so that I can streamline it. Okay. In order to do that, then you say, okay, what kind of technology I need? If I don't need technology, I can go and acquire the technology. But do I have the right people to use this technology to deliver the business output? Then again, you look inside and outside. So it depends on your strategy. Some people, like they want to go all in-house. Some they want a quick win. They might actually hire consultant come in. So it really depends on your strategy. Okay,
right.
But
so
most important,
I'm hearing, yeah.
One last thing. I think what most important is, again, really you have to understand your business and your domain. For example, what type of data you are having. Right? Say, for example, if you only have very small data, your data is very simple. Seriously, as long as you can load your data into Excel, Excel can solve all your problems. Seriously, right? Only if your data is so big, Excel cannot load it. Your IT come and say, my server also cannot load it, right? Then you start thinking, should I go for this big data system? Should I start to go to use this, something people say cloud-based system, because they say they can scale million, billion, trillion, right? So I think that is the strategy thinking, that the process must be there.
All right, right. So if you can't load into Excel, you might need some AI stuff. But I hear what you're saying, right? So based on what you have shared, right? I mean, correct me if I'm hearing it wrong. Is that from a business perspective, 3-year, 5-year plan, there is probably at least various areas that you can actually apply AI to optimize, right? Either in terms of savings, either in terms of improving business plans. So there is, right? It's just a matter of finding them and applying the talent that you have into these areas. Right. Okay, thank you. So Jared, you want to add in anything about this?
Yeah, so I've been working from both the consulting side as well as the end user side. So having the benefits of working on both areas, I realized that there is one very straightforward pattern with the adoption of using AI into the business for their processes, the buy-in. So the buy-in is very important. So you need to get the buy-ins from the executives to really, let them understand what kind of value, the AI can drive for their businesses, right? So it is very important to, sit down together with the CXOs to, formulate a data strategy, to look at, okay, this is the, where the company strategy wants to evolve. Maybe, to grow the business revenue, within the X number of years in X percentage, or do they want to, grow their customer base, and to expand their market reach to these areas? Or do they want to, improve their products and services, enhance, all these product features so that, there's more propensity and more conversions from their markets? Or, could there be a challenge with their budgeting, that they want to, optimize their budgets and their spendings on the marketing, or some of the costs that are mandatory, or some of the costs that are non-mandatory? So I think it really has to initiate from the conversations, with the CXOs, that, what are the areas that they look to improve. Then secondly, then we will think about how do we bring in the talents, the data scientists, to help them to design, the data around the strategy, like in terms of what kind of the data that they need to collect, and how do they collect and store this information, and who are the ones who should govern and have access to this data, and who are the business process owners that the data scientist has to work closely with to understand the business processes, and in order for them to deliver the right product. So I think there's a lot of the approvals and the processes that in moving mechanics. So you need to understand what kind of the skill sets are required for these kinds of a business case, right? Like in terms of, like, let's say, for example, improving marketing reach to the customers, or let's say designing a chatbot. Therefore, you need to bring in the right data scientists who have the NLP, skill sets, and also text mining skills in order for them to design these chatbots. And probably, you lead several people from the IT department as well to, build this like a UI interface for these chatbots. And, so really, it really brings down to having this close communication with the CXOs, to understand what they really need and want. But of course, from the consulting side, the buy-ins will be difficult at first, but the implementation process could be smoother because this is essentially what the companies are paying for. And then, of course, they'll be more cooperative in a way, right? But in the end user environment, it's totally different story. In the end user is, up to the head of data science or data science leads to reach out to the relevant departments to get them interested on what are the possibilities that they can help to improve their processes. And once there's a buy-in, then the implementation stage can really move. Sometimes could be painful because it's internal. So having seen things from both sides, I think these are the benefits and disadvantages. Yeah.
So I guess data scientists don't just get to play with data; they got to basically dip their toes into politics as well, right? So to speak, to get buy-in for the right people. I mean, to figure out which areas can be improved and convincing them that they need improvement.
Yeah. So I think Paul, that's one area usually as a data scientist, we want to be prudent when we communicate the insights that we have uncovered or discovered. Or for better words, like we have uncovered opened up a can of worms within a certain organization, and whether that organization wants to really address or solve that issues, right? So I think being a data scientist, we have to be prudent as well because we are the ones who see the data.
Right,
Yeah.
accuracy of data. We'll get to that in a moment's time. But I heard quite a few mentions of marketing and customers, and I thought maybe it might be worthwhile to explore this, right? I mean, we've heard of customer data platform. So how does or can a customer data platform empower a predictive and prescriptive approach to marketing? I mean, is it able to play a role? I guess the other question I'm trying to ask really is, when you want to initiate on a certain approach, do you really have to buy tools or set up another big bang project all the time?
Yeah, so for the customer data platform, right? Okay, so before I touch on the importance of having a customer data platform. So for analytics, I just covered there's 4 main categories of analytics maturity level, and AI can also be classified into 3 dimensions. One would be the the standalone AI. So standalone AI, I give an example would be this AI is only involved in attaining a certain set of tasks only. Let's say, for example, predicting customer churn or predicting customer propensities to buy a certain products. So these are standalone analytics that's only doing one task. And moving on to the next dimension will be integrated AI. Integrated AI are AIs that, on top of just making the prediction, it is integrated into the business processes. Take for example, if you have watched Netflix, right? So let's say a standalone AI was designed to predict the propensity or the interest of the viewers who want to look at this video, right? And then the integrated AI approach will be to integrating these AI predictions into their UI interface, which means that if the AI predicts that these are the kind of the movies that the viewers would want to watch, then this will show up on their screen when they log in. And how do you place all these advertisements or these movies on their screen? So these are integrated AI. And moving on to another dimension will be, I will call that the automated AI. So automated AI is another a level up from the integrated AI, whereby given that going back to the Netflix example, if let's say there's certain movies that that's already shown on the user screen, what will be the other AI that you can bring in to probably look at the analysis of pricing elasticity. Pricing elasticity will be something that, for this given set of users, right? Are they sensitive to price and promotions, or are they insensitive to price and promotions? And how do you want to price your products or services to these customers, automatically? So in this, automated AI approach, when there's a detection about a certain interest or desire to, you know, purchase certain products or services, then, you know, on their applications, you know, it can be a mobile app, it can be a, you know, on their computer screen. Therefore, you know, the prices of these, you know, products or features can be offered to these customers at a certain level of, you know, promotion level, you know, 10% discount, or, you know, subscribe this over 1 year and get X percentage of discount. So this is, you know, a very automated AI. So, you know, just earlier on, we touched on the automation. So I think automation can be, you know, intelligence, or automation can be just purely, you know, making a repetitive task. So with this, all these, you know, into consideration, these dimensions of the AI, having a customer data platform is important for marketing, because, you know, from what you have seen traditionally in the marketing, right, you know, marketers, you know, usually draft a standard template or the message for a new product or services that they want to bring it to the market, right? It could be, you know, in the form of newspapers, or, you know, online, or emailers, or, you know, telephone calls, right? Those are the traditional marketing, which focus heavily on the product that they have developed and they want to bring it to market. But in marketing nowadays, you know, in this modern era, right, it has evolved from, you know, creating that desire for the consumers, right? So consumers wants to have that, you know, demand or that desire for that particular product. So if I have that, you know, desire or that, you know, demand for that kind of the product, then I'll make that purchase. So having a customer data platform is essentially what the marketing team, you know, marketers are aiming to, understanding the customer behavior, you know, at every different touch points from their digital footprints. You know, for example, you know, they might be, you know, on social media talking about, hey, you know, I'm, you know, considering to buy whether, you know, an iPhone or Android phone, for example. And, you know, they might be asking their friends, you know, what are the trends, what are the, you know, advantages, you know, what are the benefits of having an iPhone versus, you know, Android phone. That could be, you know, someone who, you know, the same individual who walk into a you know, Apple store, or to another, you know, a telephone store, which is, you know, Android phone store. So taking into all these, you know, different touch points of a customer and putting it onto a customer data platform will be key for marketers to draft a very personalized or segmented, you know, marketing message to individuals. Right? As you can see that, you know, even for Coca-Cola, you know, when they do their advertisement, they actually draft several messages, you know, that targets the audience who are sports, you know, sports players, or, you know, they have different marketing messages for those who, you know, are in the financial services industry. So you can see that nowadays the marketing has evolved so much, which is why it is critical to have this customer data platform that the marketers can understand what are the behaviors of their customers. Therefore, they can drive a more effective marketing.
Right. Thank you so much. So best to have. So Yusheng, what are your thoughts about that?
I think, of course, you know, whether it's marketing, sales, or whatever, as long as it's your business, right? So you actually, down the line, you just want to know your customer, all right? And also you want to know how your customer think about your product and services. I think that is the most important one. Of course, all this so-called customer platform is useful, obviously, right? Everything has been structured, organized in easy to read, easy to consume way is useful, okay? But I just want to share that sometimes, don't forget, you know, we have all kind of company out there. Not everyone start that big. So more important is really, right, especially to deal to those service provider. All right, so it's good that in your brochure or your marketing brochures, right, you actually have a flexible plan. If people can start big, can invest big, yes, you can straight away, you know, this is your end state. This is, you know, what we're going to help you to achieve within 1 year for the end state. But a lot of time, people do not know. People maybe like want to see more result, right? Because in business, it's always ROI. So I think just now you mentioned whether is there something about whether those tools is easy to access to, or we buy expensive tools as well. It really depends. All right. Even I think one good thing about those proprietary product nowadays is a lot of it actually offer a free trial. And I see actually a lot of business nowadays, the first times when we engage with the partner, we actually ask, okay, where is your success story? Can we actually do a free trial of POC? So to prove that your technology, your use cases indeed can apply in our industry and help us to improve the business. So only if the result is positive, right, then we can actually decide to scale it up and expand it. So I think like I think organization, all right, they actually they don't really have a platform called customer data or customer or marketing platform. A lot of it actually, I have seen an organization pretty big, but because of the history, all right, there has been compiling all this information into Excel, and it's not effective. Seriously, once you look back to 20 years data, it's not effective. And retrieving information from this Excel build system, although it's very sophisticated, it's very slow. It's not effective. But we can't deny, indeed, that is their customer platform. I'm just saying that really to business, what important is the data have to be there. The data has transformed in a way it's ready to be consumed by, you know, all kind of people, whether it's a sales, marketing, IT, finance, all right. Then when we talk about all these customer platform, so important is really, it shouldn't be a one plan fit all. You have to be flexible in the way, right? You allow people to start big, start medium, start small, or even start free. Then there's a way for them to scale accordingly.
Right. Thank you, Yu Zhong. So I guess tools might be needed, but there's a smart way to go about exploring them, you know, through POCs and or through trials. So I'm just wondering, right, and we just have about 5 minutes left to our time. We talk about accuracy of data. I mean, the consumers in the company expect it to be highly accurate, but the question is, right, to what level can we actually predict and prescribe actions? I mean, how accurate can it be? I mean, do we need to implement things like feedback loops and contextual checks to make sure that, you know, they stay within bounds?
Yeah, actually, the accuracy of the predictions, you know, is a very interesting topic that, you know, you bring up, Paul. So, you know, in my experience working with a company, a financial services company, they are looking for highly accurate fraud detection algorithms, right? That can detect fraudulent transactions, you know, happening on their system. So, you know, I you know, asked my team of, you know, the data scientists to develop these fraud detection algorithms to detect those transactions on the system. And, you know, the CXOs, you know, he mentioned it to me that he's looking at around, you know, 95% accuracy. You know, and you know, trying to be a little bit more candid here. So I told him that your 95% accuracy can be done, you know, in a day. I can deliver the model to you in a day with 95% accuracy. And then he asked me, what do you mean? I say, now look, your fraudulent transactions under your system is just only 2% of them which are fraudulent. If I give you a system that tells you that, you know, all of the time your transactions are not fraudulent, does that mean that my system is 98% correct? Because you have only 2% of the transactions that are fraudulent. So he's fine. I say, yeah. So he wouldn't want such a, you know, a system that, you know, keeps on predicting, you know, transactions that are non-fraudulent at 98% right of the time while missing those 2% of the transactions. So, you know, in a summary here is that, you know, I'm trying to, you know, tell him that, you know, when you define the accuracy of the, you know, the project, you have to be, you know, wary about, you know, 95% accuracy in detecting those fraudulent transactions, because these are some of the terminologies, you know, that or the jargons that, you know, non-data scientists will understand. As a data scientist, you know, when I communicate to the team, I will say that, okay, give me a fraud detection model with a high precision rate, high recall rate. High precision, high recall in data science terms, which means that, you know, out of 2% of the fraudulent transactions, if they say there are 100 of them, am I able to get a high recall rate, which is I'm able to capture 95 out of 100 fraud cases? Yeah, so that means a lot of
right
in both the technical terms and
more of the story. You need the data scientists on your side of the team, right? Do anyhow play numbers with them, because they might come up with something that might not fit the purpose at all, right?
Exactly.
So Yu Zhong, maybe just a couple of minutes left. What are your thoughts with with regards to accuracy of data?
Of course, accuracy is important, especially if you're working in financial institute, all right? Because everything must be explainable. If it's not, it's a regulation finding, okay? But one good thing is recent years, right? Thanks to the evolvement of those technologies. Today, when we talk about machine learning, even AI, right? A lot of tools already come with sophisticated, right, methods or built-in tools that help you to actually explain the accuracy. Okay, so there's a lot of visualization show you why the algorithm claim is like 90%, 95% accuracy. So a lot of it is automatically generated by the tools itself. Good thing about that. But to be realistic, when we talk about accuracies, right, it's really like a glass, you know, with half filled water. Whether you see it, you know, half full or half empty. You know that if you want, you can actually go to Amazon, look for a book, How to Lie with Statistics. We thought statistic is actually, you know, the definition of statistic is actually telling the truth from the data. But there's a book by a very well-known statistician actually tell you how to lie with statistics. So I'm saying that yes, accuracy is important. Good thing is today a lot of all these advanced analytic tools come with pretty sophisticated function to actually help us automatically explain the accuracy of the data and the model. But again, right, accuracy is a two-faced knife. Make sure you know where it's your.
So what I'm hearing is the explainability might be actually more important in terms to understand the kind of precision that you might or might not be getting, and the confidence level you can attribute to it. All right, thank you so much, Yu Chung and Garrett. Thank you for your time today. With that, I'll conclude my panel discussion and hand over the time to Jonathan.
Great. Thanks very much, Paul. And thank you very much, Yu Chung, Gareth, for those valuable inputs. Some very useful ideas on how predictive analytics are working with emerging business models, and some specific examples of where they can be used, and some disclaimers on how they can be used if you don't look after that 2% inaccuracy. You can get some results that won't be as good as you want. And I'd also really like to take a moment to thank SK and the Automation Anywhere team for the earlier discussion on improving business outcomes through automation. Robotics and RPA are seeing a huge jump in Asia and globally, and Automation Anywhere is in a great position to share some important case studies and solutions. So please do touch base with Automation Anywhere if you have any RPA requirements. This concludes our session for today, but your homework's not done. This is the 6th installment of our CDOTrends Digi-Live series, where we delve deeply into a specific technology or topic around digital and data. And this today's session, I think there was some really good ideas and some inputs that I hope you can follow through on and you find somewhat actionable. But I would also ask you to do 2 things before you leave. One, you can, Danny, I don't know if you're sharing a slide at this point, but we would like you to sign up for some upcoming events. We've got our CDO Australia Summit that has some really interesting ideas that are kind of specific to Australia, but I'm sure can be shared in other parts of the world. And then our 4th annual Chief Digital Officer Hong Kong Summit that's coming up at the end of October. We also have a couple of other events in November, so if you visit our site occasionally, you'll see those. I think we'll be adding the November events at the end of this month. So also there's also a survey at the very end of this, and I would ask you to fill that in because it really just helps our team to understand what we're doing right, what we need to change. So I think it's about 5 questions if you could fill that out. So I would now just like to thank you for joining us today, and really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's there are a lot of these Zoom kind of meetings, so I appreciate you making the effort. And please do join us the next time. I'm Jonathan Bigelow, CEO of CDOTrends, and I hope to see you at the next Digi-Live series. Bye.